So it's August 25th, 1998. Welcome back to Tape Deck Selects. Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy Lord Puba back with another episode of Tape Deck Selects. And this time, we're talking about something that I think everybody truly enjoyed around the time when it came out. We're talking about a young lady who goes by the name of Lauryn Hill, and she hit us with that classic album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Now, before I get into the album, let me just say, I'm gonna reach over here, because I like my little collections to show. Let's look at the beauty of Lauryn Hill. Like, look at her. She was just such a breath of fresh air around that time. She is radiant. She is gorgeous. She is a Nubian goddess. Like, let's look at her. Look at that smile. And look at that face. And in a time where hip hop was oversaturated with like a lot of the burlesque and over sexualization, and you had your Lil Kims and you had your Foxy Browns and all of this stuff. And no knock to them, because I definitely enjoyed everything that they did. I'm pretty sure every millennium boy who's down with the culture had that Lil Kim poster hanging on their wall somewhere. You know what I'm talking about. But when Lauryn Hill came into the game, and she was beautiful, and she could sing, and she had rhyme skills, it was different. It hit different. And while she was with the Fugees for, that's her clique, that's the group she came out with, and they had like all of their stuff lined up for them. I believe the first one was Blended on Reality. That was an album that had came out, I want to say 96 or 95, one of the two, somewhere around that area. And as a kid, I used to always get them mixed up with Diggable Planets. Very similar in style, similar in look, the cadence in which they rocked. I used to always get them mixed up, but clearly Blended on Reality was something that gave us a good pass with the Fugees. And then they hit us with The Score, which was another phenomenal album. Although it was phenomenal, because I'm gonna give credit when credit was due, but I'm not gonna lie, I was not a big Fugees fan. I'm sorry, I just wasn't. But I'm not gonna knock the fact that the album was still dope. In that album, we got Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill, when she performed off of those classic hits, I was not a big R&B guy, so I didn't quite pay attention to her until she got into it. Not got into it like that, but on the track, Ghetto Cowboys, them and the Outsiders were like, head to head, head up, with one another. And she went at it with none other than another legendary artist, female artist on the mic that I can't wait to get into, who goes by the name of Rod Digger. And when she stood toe-to-toe with Rod Digger, that's what made me say, okay, let's look into Miss Lauryn Hill a little bit deeper. So let's get into some schematics, right? Lauryn Hill, we're talking about Miss Lauryn Hill. Debut solo album following the Fugees' The Score, which came out in 1996. She hit us with The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, August 25th, 1998. After that, I want to say she pretty much inspired, the album was inspired by personal experiences, motherhood, and spiritual growth, if you will. Going through like some of these songs, listening to it, it was, the themes and the messages on that album, it was like love and relationships, like, pain, X Factor, you can go with that one. Joy of like a relationship in a sense, if, you had that with Can't Take My Eyes Off of You, Tell 'Em, stuff like that. I didn't even realize that Can't Take My Eyes Off of You was actually like a Frankie Valli track. She kept this album so Jersey. It was a very Jersey album. Shouts to Mayor Ras Baraka, because he was on that album too. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. We also got into themes of like empowerment and self-worth with songs like Doo-Wop, That Thing, and all of that. I feel like those songs challenged, materialism and like double standards, things of that nature. And mind you, this is 1998, so I was like a young pup, but listening now as an adult, I can understand all of these things, which also makes this album great, because that was a seed that was planted in our minds that grew up. It kind of molded a lot of us into who we are today, morally and spiritually, and just like decision making, parenthood, everything. Motherhood, and a lot of people, shouts to my homegirl, because she definitely used this in a baby shower video that I produced for her. And this goes to show you how strong the message was with Lauryn Hill. The song To Zion celebrates Lauren's son and her motherhood journey. You know, so when her and I were discussing the theme for her baby shower and her video, and she brought that song up, she was explaining a lot of this. And one of the main things that I remember her trying to caption, or champion rather, with the feel of her video was the motherhood journey. You know, so shouts to her for making that happen. Shouts to Lauryn Hill all together, because this is the effect that resonates with us the fans, you the artist. If you're an artist and this is what you were trying to do, get your message across, she did that. You understand what I'm saying? Lauryn Hill's message got across, and it's been spanning for well over 20 some odd years. So shouts to artists like her who create music and art with a message, and this is your end result. You know, getting into the functionality of the album, if you will, it was like fusion. It was a fusion of hip hop, neo soul, reggae, and gospel. You listen to this album, and there's a little bit of everything for everyone. You know, so if you were brand new to hip hop, but you were used to more of a gospel sound, you got that. If you were into reggae, even though reggae and hip hop kind of go hand in hand, but if you were into reggae but wanted that hip hop feel, you got that too. The neo soul thing. I want to say Lauryn Hill was one of the first, not crossover artists, but Lauryn Hill kind of bridged the gap between those who were trying to do neo soul and then those, you know, or people who was doing neo soul before it had a name, and Lauryn Hill kind of like championed that and bridged that gap with artists who were trying to do neo soul and, you know, couldn't quite put a spin on it the way they wanted to. Lauryn kicked that gate down and said, nah, this is what we're doing right now. So she was like the leader of that pack around that time as well. Between, you know, dual talented Lauryn Hill, you know, strong rapper, soulful singer, just married those two together so well on that album. Cannot take away the lyrical content that she was kicking, the message behind the lyrics, and just the soulful prowess that she had on all the tracks. You know, some of the key tracks that you might want to check out on this album goes as follows. You had Doo-Wop, That Thing. That was a lot of songs were super popular on this album, but Doo-Wop was definitely a standout track for me. X Factor got me into R&B a little bit more R&B, neo soul, because I will definitely tell you I'm more neo soul than R&B, but X Factor was one of those songs that made me say, okay, yeah, it was trancey, like, you know, trance, you know, the songs put you into a trance, and X Factor is one of them. To Zion, I grew to enjoy that a lot more over the years. But let me just come back a little bit and give you like a little explanation on these things. Like, you know, with Doo-Wop, it was more like, you know, it was an empowerment anthem and it was a chart topper. You know, X Factor had emotional depth to it, without a doubt. Some would say it was linked to like Wyclef. Low key, this might have been a diss album for Wyclef. To Zion, for sure, is about personal dedication to her son. And as a millennial, I can honestly say there's a lot of women. There's two things that I notice with millennials. A lot of them have children, especially daughters named Nyla. And a lot of them like Lauryn Hill. You know, there you go. My favorite track off this whole album, as again, I say, I'm not a big R&B guy. My favorite track off this album, and it set the tone. Well, it didn't set the tone, but it was the first track on the album, Lost Ones, which is clearly a diss track to Wyclef. You know, it was, you know, some say it was rumor. You know, listen to the song. She's talking about Wyclef, you know, and it was a diss track. That should probably go on one of the biggest diss tracks of all time. Like, you know, some people, when I make up my own diss tracks, when I do my little playlist and it's like diss tracks or beef, whatever, you know, whatever you want to call it, this is on it. And it goes right up there with, you know, Dre Day, calling out names, Ice Cube, you know, No Vaseline or whatever, you know, it's put it like this. I'm not going to say it's as strong as those songs, but it definitely goes in there because she tore Wyclef up. If you want to say it's a rumor and it wasn't Wyclef, whoever the target was, they got hit. They got hit. And there's no doubt about that. Lyrically, she destroyed them. Everything is Everything is another song that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed that video, you know. I can remember, getting picked up from school, and my dad he enjoyed the hell out of that song, like between the beat and, you know, her voice, and it was just a great song. Everything is everything. It's like, it's an optimistic song, if you will. And shouts to John Legend. I don't know if you guys knew this, but John Legend played the piano on that track. You know what I'm saying? So there's that little Easter egg there for you, for those who didn't know. Let's get into some numbers. I'm not really a numbers guy, but let's call out the accreditation for this album, right? So like commercially, it debuted at #1 on the Billboard. You know, 400,000 first week. You know, shouts to Lauryn for that. We will never forget that. Critically acclaimed. It won 5 Grammys, including Album of the Year. 5 Grammys, including Album of the Year. Shouts to Lauryn. We can't forget that. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of, you can say that her music going forward influenced the likes of people like Alicia Keys. I'm going to put this one on the line. I don't know if you guys feel like Beyonce was inspired by Lauryn Hill. J. Cole's music, I feel like, is definitely inspired by Lauryn Hill. Same thing with Kendrick. And a lot of other people, SZA. There's a lot of people out now that I think at the base foundation of their style, they like Lauryn Hill. They definitely listen to Lauryn Hill, you know. And to this day, you know, it's still ranked amongst greatest albums of all time. Like, I think it was last year or maybe the year before last, Apple gave it recognition as maybe the greatest album of the times, you know. And it's no secret that people definitely feel that way about the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. It took you through so many different emotions and so many different styles and so many different genres, and she nailed every last one of them. You know, that's probably one of the greatest albums of my time, at least, if not of all time, of my time, you know, as a millennial. And let's wrap this thing up. Album's more than music. It was a cultural statement, you know. She positioned herself as both the student and the teacher, you know, reflected on personal struggles and like social values, and you know, she still left a blueprint for like future generations, as I just said, and it's going on today. That's my take on the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. So in the comments, let me know your favorite track. Let me know if you like the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Let me know how you felt about the album. Let me know if you didn't like the album. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. I'll see you next time on Tape Deck Selects as we move into the month of September. And boy, was that month loaded. Peace.